Welcome back, Cat 37 class, CATIA surfacing. Today we're going to work on how to create lines. So here's the tutorial. To access the tutorial, if you want to go online, I emailed you the Word document. And here are the links for the tutorial. So today we're going to go over the lines, how to create lines tutorial. So if you want to copy the link or just follow along, I'll leave it up to you. Okay, so I'm going to highlight it. Then I'm going to right click copy or Control C to copy. Okay, and then you go to the internet, right? And you can paste it on the browser. Control V, paste and enter, and it'll bring you to this creating lines site. Okay, so if you want to open up the CATIA part, there it is. Sometimes you may have more than one. I think this one only has one. Okay, so you can always download it. If you click here, it'll download it. I had already downloaded it earlier, so that's why it's creating a duplicate. And you see it in parentheses 1, because it's a duplicate of the first one. All right, so in the next one, if I was to hit download again, it'll create a second duplicate. Nope, not this time. All right, so I can either open it from here, or you can open it from the zip folder I emailed you. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and minimize. So here's the zip folder. Don't forget to extract it. And in that extracted folder, here's the tutorials for wireframe, creating lines. So there it is. There's that CATIA part. Okay, let me open up CATIA. And let me just move it over here to the right, just to show you that I can just simply drag and drop the cat part, left mouse click, hold, drag and drop into CATIA, and it'll open it. And there it is. All right, so let's go ahead and start the lines tutorial. So I'm going to maximize CATIA. There it is. All right. I'm going to keep the vanilla surface this time. Okay, let me hit ISO view. There it is. All right, so let me label this geoset. You don't have to do this part. I'm going to label it as existing geometry. Okay, enter. And I'm going to insert my own geometry, my own geoset, right? Insert geometric set, just to keep it separate from existing or master geometry. Okay, so I'll call it my geometry or new geometry. Or if you want to put a date. All right, so make sure you define it. So any new geometry will drop into this new geoset. Let me change the color of my new geometry that I'm going to create, in this case lines, right? So the third option is for lines. I'll make it cyan, and I'll make them a little bit thicker than the existing geometry so it stands out. And okay. That's optional. Okay, there it is. All right, so let's go to the tutorial. Okay, so we're going to learn how to create lines. First one is point to point. Okay, so using the line command, we're going to use the point to point option. And I'm going to pick two existing points that are on the surface. Okay, so we're going to create a line from this point to this one. I know they're hard to see. They're this reddish brownish color. All right, so using the line command. Again, notice it's dropping in my new geoset. Okay, so we're going to go point to point. All right, so I'm going to go point to point. And there it is. There's my line. You can already see it. It's a little hard to see, but you can see it. There it is. Now, you may have the infinite option on, going forever. Watch what happens when I turn on infinite. the line goes on forever. On the start, if you click endpoint, the opposite endpoint, see it goes on the opposite direction on forever. You can also use the green arrows to extend or shorten, right? That'll let you change the length. I don't want infinite. I want length. Okay, so I want 0 for the first one, and my mistake, the endpoint, and 0 for the start. You can either type in the number or stretch the green arrows. Okay, so I'll just drop it down to 0 manually. There it is, 0 and 0. Okay, and hit OK. And there's my new line, as you can see. Now the tutorial says, hey, pick a support. It's like, what is a support? So if we go back to the tutorial, hey, go point to point and then use the surface as your support. So a support can be a plane or a surface. Okay, so we're going to take this cyan color or line that we just created, and we're going to project it onto the surface. So instead of having to use the project command, I can go back and double click on the line. So we're going to go back, double click on it. So we're creating the line, right? So it's already there. And now we're going to project it onto the surface. So we're going to pick a support. So go to support. So it's the same line we just created. It's not a new line. Okay, so as you can see, it's the same line, except now we're going to place it on a support, which is the surface. In 3, 2, 1, don't blink. Notice it curved. That's because now it's on the surface. So what's happening is you're creating a line, point to point, and then projecting it onto the surface. So you're doing 2 commands in one. We created the line, point to point, and then we project it onto the surface by picking a support. Okay, that's what we did. Okay, so it's 2 commands in one. There's a lot of things we can do, 3 commands in one, but it gets a little confusing. Okay, hit OK. And there we have it. All right, so now let me center about this point and rotate. I have trouble rotating because I'm always jumping between SolidWorks, CATIA, and AutoCAD. All right, so, and they don't use the exact same moves on the mouse. All right, so let's go back. Okay, let's take a look at the next option. Point and direction. Okay, so some of you have already used point and direction on the handout for the impeller, or the box, I should say. Okay, so point and direction. So we're going to use this point, same point we used earlier, and we're going to go in a direction. Okay, we don't have to follow the exact options here, but we're going to give this new line, we're going to create a direction. We can delete this one or go back and alter this one to give it direction. I'll just create a new one. Let me change the color of the surface. It's a little too bright. Right click properties, and I'll make it a little darker. Let's go with something softer, like a purplish color. Okay. Let's go with bluish color. Maybe I'll make it worse. Greenish bluish color. Okay, that's a little better. All right, I hope this is easier for you guys to see. Okay, so let's just create a new point or a new line. You can leave the old one there. It's up to you. Okay, so we're going to use the line command again. Line command. And we're going to go with point and direction, second option. And I'll pick the same point we did earlier. Click. And we're going to give it direction. You can pick an edge, a straight edge, or you can pick X, Y, Z. I'm going to go in the X direction. Okay, so I can just simply right click and pick the X direction. Okay, there's our line. As you can see, we can already get a preview. So you hit preview. It's already there. Okay. And we can say, hey, I want it on this support. Okay, so it'll project it onto the support. In this case, we don't need to pick the support because it's actually already on there because the point happens to be on that surface. It happens to be a ruled surface. Okay, so I'll pick it anyway. There's the surface for my support. Preview. And okay, and there's my line. Okay, let's see if I overextend it beyond the surface. I'm going to go back. So here's our second line. Double click. Let's see what happens if I overextend it. See if it's okay. Oh, going in the wrong direction. See, there's a limit because of the support. I chose a support, so it's actually the line is shooting beyond the support, but then when you project it down, you lose the excess. Okay, so there is a limit because of the support. See, I can keep going beyond. I'm going further number. It's going off of the surface, but then remember the line, it gets projected, so the excess on in space gets removed. But if I was to clear the support, watch what happens when I clear the support. In 3, 2, 1, don't blink. See, there it is, overextended. And I can use the green arrows to extend. But if I pick the support, it's going to remove the excess that doesn't project onto the surface, normal to the surface. Okay, so if I pick support, surface, it removes the excess. Okay, so that's another option. Pretty cool that you can use the support, so it's projecting it onto a surface, or you can do it onto a plane. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so we can go with angle, normal to curve. Okay, so we can create a line, normal to curve, or we can change the angle so it's not perpendicular. Okay, so we're going to go with 45 degrees, length of 20. You don't have to use these numbers. All right, so we're going to create this line. Ooh, this is getting a little tricky now. Okay, so we're going to create a line. And let's see, which are we going to use as a reference? I'm going to use the one we just finished creating. Let's see what happens. Okay, so I'm going to use this one as my reference line to go off of. Okay, so let's create a new line. So we're going to use this one as our reference. If you want to follow the tutorial step by step, go for it. But it's going to get confusing because there's some geometry missing or the tutorial is incomplete. So you're going to get lost. Again, if you're on this for half an hour going in circles, just skip that part or move on to the next tutorial. All right, so let's use line command. Once again, we're going to go normal to curve. Third option. Okay, so it's asking me for a curve. Okay, I'm going to pick this curve. If you want to pick another one, go for it. Okay, now I need to pick a point. Okay, I can pick the point here or the point there. Pick a point. Okay, so I'm looking for an angle. It's going to 45. And it's asking me for a surface, right? So what surface are you going to use? Hey, I'll use this surface. There it is. So I'm at a 45 degree angle, as you can see, with respect to this line. You can change the angle by pulling on the green arrow. You can change the angle here. You can do it from here. By the way, your support can also be a plane. Okay, so it can be a flat surface. It can be a plane. And you can also shorten it, lengthen the line. And if you want to go normal, you have the normal option. In 3, 2, 1, I'm going to click normal, don't blink. There it is, 90 degrees. Okay, so you can pick the normal option, or once again, you can change the angle by pulling on the green arrows or typing it in. All right, so that is line width angle. Let me go ahead and change it to a 45. I think that's what the tutorial asks you to do. Let's drop it to a 45. There it is. Now if you want to project it onto this surface, you can say, hey, I want it on a geometry on support. See how it drops it onto the surface? Did you see that? Let me turn off geometry on support. Okay, so our support as a reference is this green surface. So we angled the line at 45 degrees, right, as you can see, with respect to this line. But we can also project it onto that same support, our reference support. So if I say, hey, in 3, 2, 1, click. So it projects it onto the surface, as you can see, and okay, there it is. So it's at a 45-degree angle with respect to this existing line, 45, and then it projects it onto the surface. Okay, so that's a cool little option. If you don't get the exact same thing as I do, it's okay. We're just learning how to use the commands. Okay, let's move on to the next part of this tutorial. Okay, I think this is the one where it gets a little tricky. So if you want to try this on your own, go for it. I'm going to skip this portion of it. It gets a little confusing, so I'm going to skip it. Okay, line tangent to curve. Okay, so tangent to curve. Okay, so we're going to create a line tangent to this curve, and we're going to pick a point out in space. Okay, so we're going to look for this curve and this point, create a line that's going to intersect this point and stay tangent to this existing curve. Okay, so let's look for those two items. Okay, so these are existing items. Unless it was something else we had already created. I guess it was, because it was something we had created. Sometimes the items are hidden. Let me look in the background. Nope. All right, so I'll just make something up. Okay, so I'm going to use this existing point. Okay, so this existing point is from a sketch. Whoa. Typically don't want to use an element from a sketch. You have to extract it first. I'll give it a try. If not, I'll extract it. All right. So let's try that command. Okay, so I'm going to use line command. Tangent to curve. Okay, so if I select this curve, if you don't have this curve, hey, pick the edge of the surface. Okay, you can pick an edge as your curve. Okay, I'll pick this one. All right. And I had already selected the point. You can see it's already going to the point. Let me cancel so you can see it. See that point from the sketch? I thought I wasn't going to be able to pick it, but it did allow me to. Sometimes you need to extract, as I showed earlier, how to extract a point from a group of points. All right, so let's go with line command again. And let's go with tangent to curve. Okay, so I'm going to pick this curve. If you want, you can pick the edge of the surface, pick the curve. Now it's asking me as for a reference point. I'll pick this point. Okay, so as you can see, the line that we're creating is going through this point and it's tangent to this curve. Just imagine projecting the point onto the curve where it's normal. Okay, so, and this would be the angle. Again, imagine it's projecting the point to the curve, perpendicular to the curve. And you create a line tangent to that curve. And this is the result, except it's going through this point here and not projecting it here, right? Okay, so that's tangent to curve. Okay, let me hit OK. When I use a tangent to curve, typically is when I want to extend something, and it's usually an edge of a surface. Sometimes I want to create a surface and control it by adding guides. And we're going to talk about guides more later on when we do in our next class session, when we talk about creating surfaces. So here's a very common area where I create line tangent to curve. So I'm going to use line tangent to curve. Okay, I'm going to pick this curve, and I'm going to pick this point. Okay, notice it's tangent to the curve, which is the edge of the surface, and I'm using this corner. That's my corner right there. And my curve is the edge of the surface. Okay, typically I don't want to extend it in this opposite direction. I want it to go in this direction. So I'll make this one 0. Okay, so I'll go down to 0 for my starting point. There it is. And extend in this direction. And we'll just guesstimate a length and okay. So this is something I do quite a bit. I need to create supporting guides when I create a surface. Let's say I wanted to create a surface here, extend this surface, and I want to use this as a guide for direction. And that's something we're going to talk about again in the next class session. We're still working on wireframe. Okay, so that's line tangent to curve. You can also go off of a straight edge also. Okay, it doesn't have to be curved. All right, so let's move on. Okay, so let's do this one. We're going to create a line that's tangent to these two curves. Okay, so we're going to select these two curves in space, and we're going to create a line tangent to those curves. I want to make sure I don't miss anything. Okay, so let's go back. Okay, so these are the two existing pieces of geometry. Let me change the color on these two because they're hard to see. Existing geometry. And I just noticed it's in the part body. Okay, let me change the color. I'll make them green and keep the thickness at 3. Apply. Okay. Okay, that's easier to see. Okay, so notice they're in the part body. Oh, it's because it's a sketch. Okay, I didn't notice that. Okay, so these are sketches. All right. So let's use the tangent command. Let me collapse this one. The sketches can be in the part body or in a geoset. If you're going to use the sketches to make a solid, then it makes sense to put it in the part body. But if these sketches are going to be used for surfacing or wireframe, you want to put it in a geoset. Okay, so let's go ahead and use the line command again. Tangent to curve. So let's pick our curve. Okay, and we're going to pick bitangent. Okay, so we're going to go with two curves. So double bitangent. Pick the second curve. And see, it's giving us a preview. It's like, hey, there's 3 options. We can go tangent. So once again, don't forget to pick bitangent if you're going to pick more than one. By the way, if some of these options that we're going through, let's say you don't see it on your computer or at work, it's like, teacher, I don't have the bitangent option. Or when I was using the point command, I didn't have the between option. Most likely you're using the basic license. It's very limited. Most companies don't want to pay extra for the advanced surfacing license. So those that get the basic license, they just get the minimum amount of commands for wireframe and surfacing. So if you're going to be doing a lot of surfacing, then you would have to pay extra for the upgrade on the license. And I believe that's the XD2 license for generative shape design. Okay, so be aware of that. When I'm working at a company and there's only a limited amount of XD2 license for surfacing, we're always fighting over them. Typically the first one that gets it. Some designers may even lock that license to their computer or never release that license. So we're always fighting each other for the fancy advanced generative shape design license. All right, so there's 3 options. Like, hey, we can go tangent in this direction, this direction, this direction. The top, not quite, because this just falls short. If this curve kept going a little bit further, then we would have a fourth option. Okay, so it's selecting this one. If you don't want that one, just click next. Like, no, I don't want that one. Pick the next one. Yeah, maybe. Let's go to the next one. Yeah, that's the one I want. That's the one you like. Hit OK. And there it is. It creates our tangent line, tangent to these two existing curves. You can always double click to change the options. And let's go to the other one. Next and OK. Okay, so that's creating a line using bitangent option. Okay, let's move on. Okay, normal to surface. Okay, this is one that I do use quite a bit. Creating a line normal to surface. Perpendicular to surface. Okay, so we're going to create a line perpendicular to our surface at an existing point. Okay, so let's go back to this surface. Okay, so pick any point on the surface. If you want to use the original ones, the red, brownish points that were already on there. Okay, I'll pick this one. Okay, if you want, you can hide this one temporarily. I'm going to hide this one so you can see that brownish point. Hey, what happened to that point, that line that you just turned off? Hey, it's in the hidden layer, the no-show layer, right? And you can see it's grayed out. Anytime you see an element grayed out, that's telling you it's in the no-show layer. It's hidden. All right, so we're going to draw a line normal to this point. My mistake, normal to the surface at that point. So let's go to line command again. And we're going to go normal to surface. Okay, so our surface, we're going to pick the only surface we have, right? There it is. And the point, notice it goes normal, perpendicular. And you can overextend if you like, or shorten it. All right, so hit OK. By the way, I use this quite a bit. Curve normal to surface. And you can always bring back the one that you hit earlier. Right click, show. There it is. So typically when I do a normal to curve is when I want to drill a hole, for example. I use line normal to surface. And most likely I'll drive a hole through that surface, that curved surface. Typically a hole for a fastener, a bolt, right? A screw. All right, let's move on to the next one. Okay, so let's go to bisecting. Okay, so we're going to bisect two existing lines. Okay, so bisecting, we have two lines and we're going to put a line right in between them. Now, this is one of those where it doesn't work quite right, or the instructions are not clear. So if you get stuck, or if I get stuck, we'll skip this step. Okay, so let's give it a try. If it doesn't work, we'll move on to the next one. I don't want you to get stuck flying on this. We're going around it with this command in circles for half an hour. Okay, so let me use existing lines. Let's see if I can use this existing green and blue line. Okay, so these lines are existing. Let me change them to green, just so we can see it. So these are the lines from the existing. Hold on, let me close. So line 1 and line 2, existing geometry. Let me just change the color. I'll change it to green. So I'm holding on to the control key so I can select more than one. Then properties, right click properties and change them to bright green. And I'll make them a thickness of 3. Okay, let's see if I can intersect the line. Not sure if I'll be able to. If not, I'll create a new one to make it happen. Okay, so I want to create a bisecting line between these two. I'm not sure if it's going to be able to work, but let's find out. If not, we'll do a different one or a different set. Okay, so line command. And let's go to bisecting. Okay, so it's asking me for the first line, and then we have the second one. Let's see if it allows us to pick this one and then this one. And no, and I think it's because they're not on the same plane, or they don't intersect. That could be the reason. They will either not intersect, or they're not on the same plane, or a combination of both. Okay, so I'm going to cancel out of this. Now I'm going to go back to this one. Let's see if I can create a line. I'll do the other tangent, the one at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to use line command. I'm going to use tangent again, tangent to curve. Okay, so I'm going to go by tangent. So tangent to both curves, in this case, or two curves. Yep, I want to keep the bottom one. Okay, so let's see if I can bisect these two lines. I may have to connect them, but let's find out. If this doesn't work, I'll connect them or create another one. Okay, so let's give it a try. Keep your fingers crossed. So line command. Let's go with bisecting. And again, if you don't see this command at work or on your personal computer, chances are you don't have the full-blown generative shape design license. Okay, so bisecting. Let's pick this line and pick the second line. Okay, there it is. It's bisecting. See, there's two options. Now, if we want the one right in between, we want the next option, right? So we can go next solution. There it is, as you can see. It's cutting it right down the middle. You can always manually pick the other option, which happens to be perpendicular. Right? You can always pick that one. But no, the one we want is the one that's cutting it right down the middle. Okay, and you can change the length if you like. Right? You can change the length. And by the way, you can always, if there is a support like a plane or surface, you can always project it onto a surface. If you follow the tutorial online, it's going to ask you to do the exact same thing, except you're going to use this as a support and things may not line up correctly and you'll go in circles trying to figure it out. Okay, so let's leave this one. Preview and okay. And there it is. We bisect. It's like cutting a slice of pizza in half. All right, so that's bisecting. Okay, the last thing we're going to do, we're almost there. We got two more things to do, I believe. Okay, creating a line up to an element. Okay, so let's create a line up to an element. Okay, you don't have to do this part, but I'm going to demo it. Okay, let's go back to this one, the bisecting. Let me double click on it. So let's say I wanted it to stop on this curve. So I can say, hey, I want to go up to an element. So instead of -107, as you see here, I can say, hey, you know what? I want to go up to an element instead of typing in a number and trying to guesstimate the location where it touches this curve. So I'm going to say, hey, I want to go up to element. I'm going to pick this curve. It can also be a point or a surface. See how it automatically trims off the excess? Okay, so I said, hey, I want this line to go up to this element, and it'll stop at that element. It can be a plane, it can be a curve, it can be a surface, it can be a point, okay? That's a cool option. Want to go up to element. And same thing on the opposite side. Let's say you wanted it to end on this element. You don't want this excess. Okay, so we can pick this option and say, hey, on this, going in the opposite direction, let's stop up to this element, and there it is. Okay, see it stops there, and okay, that's up to element. Pretty cool. Comes in handy. Okay, let's see if there's anything else I wanted to cover in this. And again, you can also go up to surface. Right? Up to element, up to surface. Okay, and I think we're at a good stopping point. Let's see if I can demonstrate one up to surface. Not the way I have it set up. And the way I have it set up, I can go up to surface in this direction. You know what? I do have a good one, a good idea. I'm going to draw a line with direction up to surface. Okay, so I'm going to take this line just to demonstrate I can go up to surface. I'm going to shorten it, and then I'm going to create a line up to surface. Let me shorten this one a little bit just to demonstrate up to surface. And okay. Okay, so I'm going to draw a new line going in the Z direction. Okay, so the Z direction. So I'll create a new line. And I want point and direction. Okay, so I want to create a line starting at this point. And I want to go in the Z direction, right? So I'm going to right click, direction, go to Z. Right. I'm going to make this one go to 0. By the way, you can always reverse things if you like. I forgot to mention that. You can always hit reverse. Let me make this one go to 0. And then the one on the other side. Okay, I'm going to say, hey, the one going in the opposite direction, the minus 81, I want it to actually stop on this surface. So I can say instead of going up to 81, I want to go up to an element, up to this surface, and bam, see, it stops on the surface. Okay, let me clear it, clear selection, just so it's more obvious. Let me shorten it and say, hey, instead of minus 52, I want to go up to surface. So select it so it's blue and pick the surface, and there it is. It stops at the surface, and okay. So again, it'll work up to plane, up to point, up to surface, and so on. All right, so don't forget to save your work. Okay, so I'm gonna go File, Save As, and I'll save it in my Creating Lines folder, and I'll just put my initials at the end, space, my initials, and save it. Okay, that's the end of the lines tutorial. See you in the next video.